Captain Jake Morrison stared at the stars through the bridge windows of the UES horizon. The deep black space looked peaceful, but Jake knew better. Space was never truly peaceful. His ship moved quietly through the outer rim, far from Earth, and the safety of human colonies. "Captain, we're getting a signal," said Lisa Wade from her position at the tactical station. She was young, but smart, one of the best officers Jake had ever worked with. "It's coming from the Kepler research station." Jake turned toward her. "What kind of signal?" "Distress call, sir, but it's weak and broken up." The Kepler station was home to alien scientists called the Zilani. They were peaceful creatures who studied stars and planets. Jake had met a few of them before. They were kind and helpful, nothing like the scary aliens from old Earth movies. "How far away are we?" Jake asked. Ben Parker looked up from his engineering console. "About 6 hours at full speed, Captain." Jake made his decision quickly. "Set. Course for Kepler Station. Full speed." The Horizon was not a warship. It was built for exploration, with basic shields and only light weapons for protection against space debris and small pirates. The crew of 43 people were scientists, engineers, and support staff. They were not soldiers. As they traveled toward the station, Amy Chen worked at her communications post, trying to clean up the distress signal. She was quiet and focused, her fingers moving fast over the controls. "I'm getting more of the message," Amy said. "Something about raiders. The word Vorthak keeps coming up." Dr. Carl Young, the ship's medical officer, looked worried. "I've heard that name before. Other alien species whisper about them. They say the Vorthak are killers." Jake had heard the stories too. The Vorthak were supposed to be giant reptile-like creatures who conquered other worlds for fun. Most people thought they were just scary stories told to frighten children. "Keep monitoring all frequencies," Jake ordered. "Let me know if you hear anything else." 6 hours later, the Horizon arrived at Kepler Station. What they saw made everyone on the bridge go silent. The research station was destroyed. Huge holes were burned through its metal walls. Pieces of the station floated in space like broken toys. Some sections were still glowing red from whatever weapons had hit them. "My God," whispered Lisa. "What happened here?" Jake felt sick. "Scan for survivors. Any life signs at all." Ben worked his instruments carefully. "I'm reading one weak life sign in Section C. Whoever it is, they're barely alive." "Prepare the shuttle," Jake ordered. "Lisa, you're with me. Ben, get a medical." "Team ready." 20 minutes later, Jake and Lisa floated through the damaged station in spacesuits. Emergency lights flickered on and off. The air was gone, sucked out into space through the giant holes in the walls. They found bodies everywhere. The Zilani were small, blue-skinned creatures with large eyes. They had been killed in terrible ways. Some were burned by energy weapons. Others looked like they had been torn apart by claws. "This wasn't a battle," Lisa said over the radio. "This was a massacre." They found the survivor in what used to be the station's laboratory. It was a Zilani scientist, barely breathing inside an emergency shelter. Jake and Lisa carefully moved the creature to their shuttle. Back on the Horizon, Dr. Young worked to save the alien's life. The Zilani was badly hurt but alive. After 2 hours of treatment, the creature opened its large eyes. "I am Kretal," the alien said in broken English. "You must go. Leave this place." "What happened here?" Jake asked gently. Kretal's body shook, with fear. "The Vorthak came. They killed everyone. Not for resources, not for territory. They killed for pleasure." Jake felt anger building inside him. How many of them were there? 3 ships, giant ships with weapons that burn through anything. They are 8 feet tall with scales like armor and claws like knives. They laughed while they killed us. "Why did they attack you?" Lisa asked. "The Zilani never hurt anyone." "Because they could," Kretal said. "The Vorthak believe only the strong deserve to live. They call themselves the Apex Hunters. They have conquered 73 star systems. No one can stop them." Amy's voice came over the intercom. "Captain, I'm picking up new signals. Big ships approaching fast." Jake felt his heart beat faster. "How many?" At least 6. They're huge, sir. Bigger than anything we've ever seen. Kretal grabbed Jake's arm with surprising strength. You must run. Your species is new to space. The Vorthak will destroy you like they destroyed us. They fear nothing and no one. Jake looked at his crew. They were scared but determined. These people had volunteered to explore space, to find new worlds and make contact with alien species. They had not signed up to fight monsters. But as Jake looked at the destroyed station and the terrified alien survivor, he made a decision that would change everything. Amy, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them what we found here. Include all our sensor data about the Vorthak ships. Sir, shouldn't we run? Ben asked. Jake stood up straighter. No, we're going to see what these Vorthak are really made of. Lisa stared at him. Captain, we're not a warship. We have 43 people against an entire fleet. Maybe, Jake said. But I'm tired of bullies who pick on innocent people. It's time someone stood up to them. Through the bridge windows, they could see 6 massive ships approaching. Each one was dark red and covered in spikes. They looked like flying fortresses built for war. Kretal whispered, You do not understand. The Vorthak have never been defeated. Every species that fights them dies. Every world that resists them burns. Jake smiled grimly. Then maybe it's time they met someone new. The Vorthak ships were getting closer. Soon, the galaxy would learn something important about humans. When pushed too far, even peaceful explorers could become very dangerous. War Commander Zethrak stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Bloodfang. His 8-foot frame was covered in dark red scales that had turned black with age. Scars from 100 battles marked his hide, and his yellow eyes glowed with cruel. Intelligence, report, he growled to his second-in-command. Sub-Commander Thrakvor bowed his reptilian head. The hunting fleet is ready, War Commander. 6 destroyers and 2 battlecruisers. We move toward human space as ordered. Zethrak smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Tell me about these humans. A young species, barely 200 years in space. They have small colonies spread across 12 systems. Their ships are weak, their weapons primitive. Intelligence says they have never fought a real war. Perfect, Zethrak said. The Council of Claws grows restless. They want fresh conquests. These humans will provide good sport before they die. The Vorthak had ruled the galaxy for centuries through fear and strength. They believed only the powerful deserved to live. Every species they met either bowed down or was destroyed. It was the natural order of things. Set course for their mining colony, Zethrak ordered. The one called New Denver. We will make an example of it. 3 days later, the Vorthak fleet dropped out of hyperspace near New Denver. The colony was built inside a large asteroid field, where humans mined rare metals for their growing civilization. It was home to 15,000 people. Colonel Steve Martinez was eating breakfast when the alarm started screaming. He ran to the command center where Lieutenant Kate Sullivan was staring at her screens with wide eyes. Sir, we have bogies incoming. 3 large ships. Unknown design. Steve looked at the tactical display. The approaching ships were huge, each 5 times bigger than anything in the human fleet. They looked like flying weapons covered in spikes and armor. Are they responding to our communications? Steve asked. No, sir. They're just coming straight at us. Steve felt fear in his stomach, but he pushed it down. He had been a soldier for 20 years. He knew how to handle fear. Sound general quarters. Get everyone to the shelters. Prepare all defensive systems. Kate looked at him. Sir, our defenses are designed to stop pirates and smugglers. These ships look like they could destroy a planet. Then we'll have to be creative, Steve said. The lead Vorthak ship opened fire without warning. Bright green energy beams lanced out and struck the colony's outer defensive platforms. The platforms exploded like fireworks, their shields useless against the alien weapons. All units, this is Colonel Martinez. We are under attack by unknown hostiles. Implement Plan Delta immediately. Plan Delta was something Steve had created, but hoped never to use. It turned every ship in the system into a weapon, no matter what. It was originally built for mining ships loaded with explosives flew straight at the Vorthak vessels. Cargo haulers released clouds of metal debris to confuse enemy sensors. Even small personal shuttles carried suicide bombs toward the alien fleet. On the Bloodfang, Thrakvor watched the human response with confusion. War Commander, the humans are not following standard combat doctrine. Their ships are attacking us individually without coordination. Many are not even warships. Zethrak laughed. Desperate prey trying to sting their hunters. Let them come, our shields will protect us. But as the first mining ship struck a Vorthak destroyer, something unexpected happened. The explosion was much bigger than it should have been. The humans had packed their ship with mining charges and fusion reactors. The destroyer's shields flickered and failed. Impossible, Thrakvor whispered. More human ships slammed into the Vorthak fleet. Each explosion was perfectly timed and positioned to cause maximum damage. The humans were using their knowledge of mining and construction to turn ordinary ships into devastating weapons. On New Denver, Steve watched his people fight with pride and terror. He knew most of them would not survive, but they kept fighting, anyway. Sir, the Vorthak are sending boarding parties, Kate reported. They're trying to land troops in Sector 7. Send the militia to stop them. The Vorthak warriors who landed on New Denver expected to find frightened civilians begging for mercy. Instead, they found humans with mining lasers, construction, tools and explosive charges who fought like wild animals. Danny Torres was a maintenance worker who had never been in a real fight. When 3 Vorthak soldiers cornered him in a storage bay, he grabbed a plasma cutter and charged them screaming. He managed to wound one before they killed him, but his sacrifice gave other humans time to set up an ambush. The fighting was brutal and close. Humans used their knowledge of the colony's tunnels and passages to strike from unexpected directions. They worked in small groups, coordinating their attacks through helmet radios. What shocked the Vorthak most was how humans protected each other. When Lisa Park was wounded by enemy fire, 3 other humans risked their lives to drag her to safety. When old Joe Ryan was trapped under fallen debris, his friends stayed to free him even as Vorthak warriors closed in. This behavior made no sense to the Vorthak. In their culture, the weak were left to die so the strong could survive. On the Blood, Fang Zethrak watched his boarding parties take heavy casualties. These humans fight strangely, he told Thrakvor. They waste resources protecting their weak members. Should we withdraw the ground forces? Thrakvor asked. No. Press the attack. Show these creatures what real strength looks like. But as the battle continued, something unprecedented happened. One of the Vorthak destroyers, badly damaged by suicide attacks, began to list and lose power. Its crew evacuated to other ships. For the first time in Vorthak military history, they had lost a capital ship to an inferior enemy. The battle for New Denver lasted 18 hours. When it ended, the colony was in ruins, and most of its defenders were dead. But the Vorthak had paid a price they never expected. Colonel Steve Martinez died fighting in the colony's command center, but not before he recorded a message that would be sent to every human world. This is Colonel Martinez of New Denver. We have been attacked by aliens called the Vorthak. They are strong and ruthless, but they can be hurt. They can be stopped. Do not let them scare you. Fight back with everything you have. Make them pay for every inch. As the surviving Vorthak ships limped away from New Denver, Thrakvor approached his commander. War Commander, we have never retreated from a weaker enemy before. Zethrak's eyes burned with rage, and something else. Something that might have been respect. These humans are not like other prey species, he said slowly. They fight like predators, but they protect their pack like nothing I have ever seen. What are your orders? Zethrak stared at the wreckage of New Denver floating in space. Among the debris were pieces of his own destroyed ship. Send word to the Council of Claws. Tell them we need more ships. Many more ships. Do you believe the humans are a real threat? Zethrak was quiet for a long moment. I believe we have awakened something that should have been left sleeping. The message from New Denver reached Earth 12 hours after the battle ended. Admiral Helen Cross sat in her office at Space Command headquarters, watching Colonel Martinez's final transmission for the 3rd time. Her hands were shaking with anger. "Get me the president," she told her aide. "Now." Within 6 hours, every human world had received the same message. The reaction was immediate and fierce. Across 12 star systems, humans began preparing for war with an enemy they had never seen before. General Pete Jackson stood before a crowd of 10,000 volunteers at the military recruitment center on Mars. "The Vorthak think we're weak because we protect each other," he shouted. "They're about to learn how wrong they are." The volunteers cheered. They came from every human world and every job. Teachers, farmers, miners, doctors, and students all wanted to fight. Within days, the human military grew from 50,000 soldiers to over 2 million. Dr. Elena Rodriguez worked day and night in her laboratory on Luna Station. She had pieces of Vorthak technology recovered from New Denver, and she was determined to understand how it worked. "Their shields operate on a rotating frequency," she explained to her team. "If we can predict the pattern, we can punch through them." Tony Blake, the weapons designer, looked at the alien metal fragments. "This armor is strong but brittle. Our kinetic weapons might work better than we thought." "How long do you need?" Admiral Cross asked during her daily visit to the lab. "Give me 2 weeks," Elena said. "I'll have new weapons ready by then." Meanwhile, Captain Jake Morrison and his crew worked with other ship captains to share everything they had learned about the Vorthak. The UES Horizon had become the center of human intelligence gathering. "They're arrogant," Jake told the assembled captains. "They expect us to fight like every other species they've conquered. We need to do something completely different." Commander Ryan Foster, a tactical genius from the military academy, studied the battle records from New Denver. "Look at how they move their ships. They fight in straight lines like ancient naval battles. But space doesn't have oceans. We can attack from any direction." "What do you suggest?" asked Captain Morrison. Ryan smiled. "We turn an entire planet into a trap." On the Vorthak homeworld, the Council of Claws was meeting in emergency session. War Commander Zethrak stood before the 12 most powerful Vorthak leaders. His head bowed in shame. "You lost a destroyer to primitive humans," hissed Clawmaster Vex Thule, the oldest member of the council. "They fought unlike any species we have encountered," Zethrak explained. "They use tactics that make no tactical sense. They sacrifice strong warriors to save weak ones." "Weakness," spat another council member. "You have grown soft, Zethrak." "Perhaps," said Subcommander Thrakvor, stepping forward, "but these humans killed 300 of our warriors. Warriors who had never been defeated before." The council fell silent. 300 dead Vorthak was more than they had lost in the last 10 conquests combined. "What do you recommend?" asked Clawmaster Vex Thule. "Give me 50 ships," Zethrak said. "Let me bring the full might of the Dominion against these humans. We will crush them completely and restore our reputation." "Granted. But if you fail again, you will be fed to the void spawn." Zethrak bowed deeper. "I will not fail." 3 weeks later, the largest Vorthak fleet in decades approached the human agricultural world of Haven's Rest. The planet grew food for 6 human colonies and was defended by only a small garrison. War Commander Zethrak expected to find terrified farmers begging for mercy. Instead, his scouts reported something strange. "The planet appears to be abandoned," Thrakvor told him. "We detect no large population centers, no military installations." "Impossible. Intelligence says 2 million humans live there. Our sensors show empty cities and vacant farms. Perhaps they evacuated when they learned we were coming." Zethrak laughed. "Cowards. Land the army. We will hunt down any survivors hiding in the wilderness." But as the first Vorthak dropships entered Haven's Rest atmosphere, they flew into carefully prepared killing zones. Captain Morrison's ship, hidden behind the planet's moon, coordinated the defense. "All units, this is Morrison. Execute Plan Mousetrap." The empty cities erupted with hidden weapons. Buildings that looked abandoned were actually concealed missile batteries. Farms that seemed deserted were camouflaged military bases. The entire planet had been turned into one massive ambush. Vorthak dropships fell from the sky like burning meteors. Those that managed to land found themselves facing an enemy that appeared and disappeared like ghosts. Commander Ryan Foster led a unit of human soldiers through the forests of Haven's Rest. They moved in small groups, using the planet's terrain to their advantage. When Vorthak warriors tried to follow them, they found themselves separated and surrounded. "Remember your training," Ryan told his troops over the radio. "Work together. Watch each other's backs. Make every shot count." The Vorthak were stronger and better armed, but the humans fought as a coordinated team. They shared ammunition, covered each other's retreats, and never left anyone behind. Tony Blake's new weapons proved their worth. Human rifles now fired armor-piercing rounds that could penetrate Vorthak scales. The shields on Vorthak ships flickered and failed as Elena Rodriguez's frequency scramblers disrupted their defenses. But the most effective human weapon was something the Vorthak couldn't understand. When Private Mike Johnson was wounded by enemy fire, his squad mates didn't abandon him. Instead, they turned his position into a strong point and fought even harder to protect him. When Sergeant Nancy Davis saw her men running low on ammunition, she charged a Vorthak position alone to buy them time to reload. Her sacrifice allowed her squad to win the battle. The Vorthak warriors were individually superior, but they fought as individuals. The humans were weaker alone, but together they became something greater than the sum of their parts. On his flagship, Zethrak watched his ground forces take heavy casualties. For the second time in his career, he was losing a battle against weaker opponents. "War Commander," Thrakvor said quietly, "perhaps we should reconsider our approach." "What do you mean?" "These humans have something we do not. They fight not just for themselves but for each other. It makes them stronger." Zethrak growled low in his throat. "Nonsense. Only individual strength matters." But as he watched another squad of his warriors fall to coordinated human attacks, doubt crept into his mind. The battle for Haven's Rest lasted 3 days. When it ended, the Vorthak had lost 20 ships and over 1,000 warriors. The human losses were lighter, but each death was mourned by the entire defense force. Captain Morrison stood in the ruins of what had been Haven's Rest main city. The trap had worked, but at a terrible cost. The planet was destroyed, its cities in ruins. "Was it worth it?" asked Lisa Wade, looking at the devastation. Morrison nodded grimly. "Every Vorthak ship we destroy here is one less that can attack our colonies. We're not just fighting for Haven's Rest. We're fighting for every human world." In space above the planet, the surviving Vorthak ships retreated once again. Thrakvor found his commanders staring out at the stars. "The humans are teaching other species to resist us," Thrakvor reported. "The Zalani have begun coordinating with human forces. Even the Flutari are showing signs of rebellion." Zethrak was quiet for a long time. "Send a message to the Council of Claws. Tell them we need the entire Dominion fleet." "The entire fleet? That's over 300 ships." "These humans are not just another conquest," Zethrak said slowly. "They're something new, something dangerous. If we don't crush them completely, they will destroy everything we have built." As the Vorthak fleet limped home, neither they nor the humans knew that the galaxy was watching. Species that had been conquered and enslaved for centuries were beginning to hope. Maybe, just maybe, the reign of the predators was coming to an end. War Commander Zethrak stood before the largest Vorthak fleet ever assembled. 300 ships filled the space around their homeworld, from small destroyers to massive dreadnoughts. At the center floated his new flagship, the Void Ripper, a ship so large it could destroy entire planets. "Today we end this human plague," Zethrak announced to his fleet commanders. "We will show the galaxy what happens when prey forgets its place." The Council of Claws had given him everything he asked for. Half the Dominion military was now under his command. No species had ever faced such overwhelming force and survived. Sub-Commander Thrakvor watched the preparations with growing unease. "War Commander, perhaps we should try to understand why the humans fight so differently before we attack." Zethrak's yellow eyes blazed with anger. "Understanding is for the weak. We are predators. We kill or we die." But Thrakvor had been studying the human battles. Something about their tactics bothered him. like an itch he couldn't scratch. On Earth, Admiral Helen Cross knew the final battle was coming. Human spy ships had reported the massive Vorthak buildup. Every available human vessel was now gathered in the Sol system, humanity's last line of defense. "How many ships do we have?" she asked her staff. 230, reported Captain Morrison, now promoted to fleet operations. "But most are converted civilian vessels." Admiral Cross looked out at her fleet. Cargo ships with missile pods welded to their hulls, passenger liners turned into troop transports, mining vessels carrying experimental weapons. It wasn't much, compared to the Vorthak Armada, but it was everything humanity had. Dr. Elena Rodriguez had been working without sleep for weeks. Her latest invention was something she called a transformation system. Human ships could now change their configuration during battle, turning from one type of vessel into another. "Show me how it works," Admiral Cross said during her inspection of the new technology. Elena activated a control panel. Outside the laboratory window, a human cruiser began to change shape. Its hull sections moved and reconfigured. Weapon ports opened in new places. Additional armor plating slid into position. "Exploration ship becomes a heavy destroyer," Elena explained. "A medical frigate becomes a missile boat. The Vorthak won't know what they're fighting until it's too late." Tony Blake had developed something even more unusual. "We call it the Sacrifice Protocol," he told the Admiral. "When a ship is about to be destroyed, it can channel all its remaining power into one final attack." "You mean our ships will fight even while they're dying?" "Exactly. And they'll coordinate their deaths to cause maximum damage to the enemy." Admiral Cross felt a chill. Her people were preparing to die fighting, and they were doing it with calm determination. Dr. Sarah Kim ran the Psychological Warfare Division. Her job was to get inside Vorthak heads and make them doubt themselves. "We've been broadcasting human music and poetry through their communication channels," she reported. "Songs about sacrifice, stories about protecting loved ones. It seems to be affecting their younger warriors." "How can you tell?" "Intercepted communications show arguments breaking out in their ranks. Some Vorthak are questioning whether strength is only about individual power." The humans had one more secret weapon. Commander Lisa Wade, now captain of her own ship, led a special unit called the Ghost Squadron. These ships were painted black and equipped with advanced stealth systems. "We'll hit them where they don't expect it," Lisa explained to her pilots. "Behind their lines, targeting their command ships. Make them look over their shoulders." 3 weeks later, the Vorthak fleet arrived at the edge of the Sol system. War Commander Zethrak expected to find the humans cowering behind Earth's defenses. Instead, he found them spread throughout the system, using asteroids and planets as cover. "They're not following standard defensive doctrine," Thrakvor observed. "Their ships are everywhere." "It doesn't matter," Zethrak growled. "We outnumber them. Attack Formation Alpha. Crush them." The battle began when the first Vorthak ships entered the asteroid belt. Hidden human vessels suddenly appeared, firing from concealed positions. But these weren't the same ships that had attacked moments before. Elena's transformation systems had changed them into different configurations. A Vorthak destroyer targeted what looked like a human cargo ship. But as it approached, the cargo ship suddenly reconfigured into a heavy weapons platform and destroyed the destroyer with a single salvo. "Impossible," breathed a Vorthak commander. "Ships cannot change their basic design." "The humans can," Thrakvor said quietly. "They make tools that become other tools. It's like their tactics, it should not work, but it does." The Ghost Squadron struck at the Vorthak rearguard. Black ships appeared from nowhere, destroyed their targets, and vanished again. The Vorthak found themselves fighting enemies they couldn't see coming. But the most disturbing thing for the Vorthak was how human ships died. When the cruiser Hartford was overwhelmed by enemy fire, Captain Bob Miller didn't try to escape. Instead, he used Tony Blake's sacrifice protocol. "This is Captain Miller to all ships," he broadcast. "Hartford is going down, but we're taking some of them with us." The Hartford channeled all its remaining power into its weapons and rammed a Vorthak battlecruiser. Both ships exploded, but the human captain had positioned his ship perfectly. The explosion chain reacted through 3 other Vorthak vessels. 4 enemy ships destroyed for the price of one of ours, Admiral Cross noted grimly. That's how we win. Make every loss count. This happened again and again. Human ships didn't just fight until they were destroyed. They fought until their final breath, positioning themselves to cause maximum damage even in death. The Vorthak had never seen anything like it. In their culture, a defeated warrior tried to escape to fight another day. The idea of deliberately sacrificing yourself for a tactical advantage was completely alien. Sub-Commander Thrak Vor watched a human medical ship called the Mercy refuse to retreat even when surrounded. Instead of running, the medical ship's crew began broadcasting on all frequencies. Any ship needing medical assistance, we are here to help. Human or alien, it doesn't matter. 3 wounded Vorthak fighters damaged by human attacks heard the transmission. Their pilots were young warriors who had been listening to Dr. Sarah Kim's broadcasts. Against all military protocol, they approached the human medical ship. Dr. Carl Jung, now serving as chief medical officer for the fleet, treated the wounded Vorthak without question. He worked to save their lives with the same care he gave to human patients. Why? Asked one of the young Vorthak warriors. We are your enemies. Dr. Jung looked up from his work. You're hurt. That's all that matters. This act of mercy was broadcast throughout both fleets. Some Vorthak warriors began to question everything they had been taught about strength and weakness. Thrak Vor found War Commander Zethrak staring at the tactical displays. The battle was going badly. Despite their overwhelming numbers, the Vorthak were losing ships faster than the humans. War Commander, perhaps we should withdraw and reconsider our strategy. Zethrak spun around, his claws extended. Never. We are the apex predators of this galaxy. We do not retreat from prey, but these humans are not prey, Thrak Vor said carefully. They fight like predators, but they protect each other like a family. It gives them power we do not understand. Power? Zethrak laughed bitterly. They are weak creatures who will be extinct by tomorrow. But as he spoke, another human ship used the sacrifice protocol to destroy 2 Vorthak destroyers. The dying human crew had managed to position their ship's explosion to maximum effect. Captain Morrison, watching from the command ship, felt tears in his eyes. So many good people were dying. But their deaths were not meaningless. Each sacrifice brought humanity closer to victory. Admiral, he reported to Helen Cross, enemy fleet strength is down to 60%. They're starting to pull back their lead elements. For the first time in Vorthak history, their fleet was retreating from a smaller enemy force. Thrak Vor approached his commander one more time. War Commander, I request permission to speak with the human leaders. Zethrak's eyes narrowed. Why? Because I think we have been wrong about what makes a species strong. These humans have something we lost long ago. And what is that? Thrak Vor looked out at the human fleet, where damaged ships were being towed to safety by their companions, where medical vessels risked destruction to save the wounded. They have each other. The final battle for Earth began at dawn on a Tuesday. War Commander Zethrak brought his remaining fleet of 150 ships directly toward humanity's homeworld. He was desperate now, his reputation in ruins, his warriors questioning his leadership. This ends today, he told his bridge crew. We destroy their home planet or we die trying. But as the Vorthak fleet approached Earth, something happened that no one expected. Ships began appearing from hyperspace around the solar system. Not human ships, but vessels from dozens of different alien species. Admiral Helen Cross stared at her tactical display in amazement. Communications? Who are these ships? Amy Chen, now promoted to Chief Communications Officer, worked frantically at her console. Admiral, I'm getting signals from Zalani ships, Harvestor vessels, even Flutari frigates. They're all requesting permission to join our defense. The first voice came through clearly. It was Kretel, the Zalani scientist they had rescued from Kepler Station. Admiral Cross, this is Science Vessel Hope's Light. The Zalani people stand with humanity. We will fight. More voices followed. Captain Vex 9 of the Crystalline Harvestors spoke in musical tones. The Harvestor Collective offers our energy weapons to the human cause. Even the timid Flutari, who had never fought anyone, sent their ships. Flutari Defense Wing requesting battle assignments, came their squeaky voice. We may be small, but we are many. Sub-Commander Thrakvor watched this unprecedented gathering with wonder. War Commander, they're not just fighting for themselves anymore. Dozens of species are uniting against us. Zethrak's claws scraped against his command chair. Impossible. Prey species do not work together. They compete and fight each other. Not anymore, Thrakvor said quietly. The humans have taught them something new. Captain Jake Morrison, now commanding a task force of mixed human and alien ships, coordinated the defense. His flagship was no longer the exploration vessel Horizon, but a new ship built with technology from 5 different species. They called it the Unity. All ships, this is Morrison. Today we fight not just for Earth, but for every world that wants to be free. Show them what cooperation can do. The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Zalani ships provided advanced sensors that could track Vorthak movements through their stealth fields. Harvester vessels contributed energy weapons that could punch through the strongest armor. Flutari ships swarmed around larger vessels like angry insects, their small size making them almost impossible to hit. But it was the humans who held everything together. They coordinated the different species, translated between their various communication systems, and made sure everyone worked as a team. Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched from her laboratory as her latest creation joined the battle. She had built a massive space station that could transform into a weapon platform. When Vorthak ships approached Earth's orbital defenses, the station unfolded like a flower, revealing dozens of weapon systems. Target the flagship, she told her crew. Show them what human engineering can do. The Void Ripper, Zethrak's massive dreadnought, shuddered under the combined fire of the defense station and 20 allied ships. Its shields flickered and began to fail. On the bridge of the Void Ripper, alarms were screaming. Thrakvor approached, his commander, who was staring at the tactical display with disbelief. War Commander, our ship is taking heavy damage. We should retreat. No, Zethrak growled. I will not be defeated by inferior species. Prepare my personal fighter. I will face their leader in single combat. Sir, that's not tactically sound. I don't care about tactics anymore. I care about honor. Admiral Helen Cross received the challenge on the bridge of her command ship. Zethrak wanted to fight her personally, ship to ship, winner takes all. Admiral, you don't have to accept, Captain Morrison told her. We're winning the battle. His fleet is retreating. Helen looked at the display showing the mixed fleet of humans and aliens working together. No, Jake. This is about more than just winning. This is about showing the galaxy that there's a different way to be strong. The two commanders met in the space between their fleets. Zethrak's fighter was a sleek predator, covered in weapons and armor. Helen's ship was smaller and looked almost fragile in comparison. You fight well for prey, Zethrak transmitted to her, but you are still weak. We'll see about that, Helen replied. The duel was brief but intense. Zethrak attacked with the fury and skill of a lifetime warrior. His weapons were more powerful, his ship was faster, and his experience was greater. But Helen had something he didn't understand. Every move she made was supported by information from her fleet. Zalani sensors told her where Zethrak would be. Harvestor computers calculated the best attack angles. Human tactical systems coordinated everything into a perfect plan. She wasn't fighting alone. She was fighting with the strength of dozens of species behind her. When Zethrak's fighter exploded, something died with it. Not just a Vorthak commander, but an entire way of thinking about strength and power. Sub-Commander Thrakvor, now the senior Vorthak officer, ordered his remaining ships to stop fighting. He opened communications with Admiral Cross. Admiral, I request permission to come aboard your ship. I wish to surrender, but also to learn. Learn what? How you made the weak into the strong. An hour later, Thrakvor stood in the conference room of Admiral Cross's flagship. Around the table sat representatives from a dozen species, all talking and planning together. I don't understand, Thrakvor said. You are all different species with different needs. How do you work together? Dr. Sarah Kim smiled. Because we choose to. We're stronger together than apart. Captain Morrison leaned forward. Your people believe that only the strongest should survive. But what if making others stronger makes you stronger too? Thrakvor was quiet for a long moment. In Vorthak culture, helping someone else was seen as weakness. But he had watched the humans risk their lives to save alien allies. He had seen species with nothing in common fight side by side. What happens now? He asked. Admiral Cross stood up. Now we build something new. A galactic alliance where species protect each other instead of conquering each other. And what about my people? The Vorthak have done terrible things. Your people can choose, Helen said. You can join us and learn a new way, or you can go back to your old ways and face the consequences. Thrakvor thought about the young Vorthak, warriors who had been saved by human medics. They had returned to their ships asking questions about mercy and cooperation. Maybe his people could change. I will speak to the Council of Claws, he said. Perhaps it is time for predators to learn from their prey. 6 months later, the first meeting of the Galactic Protection Alliance was held on a neutral space station. Representatives from 87 species attended, including a small delegation of Vorthak led by Thrakvor. Captain Morrison, now promoted to admiral, gave the opening speech. We gather here not as conquerors or conquered, but as equals. We have learned that true strength comes not from dominating others, but from protecting them. The age of predators is over. The age of cooperation has begun. In the audience, Kreetal, the Zalani scientist, sat next to a young Vorthak warrior who was learning about mercy. A harvester diplomat shared energy calculations with a human engineer. Flutari children played games with human kids while their parents discussed trade agreements. Admiral Helen Cross watched it all with satisfaction. Humanity had set out to explore the stars and find new friends. Instead, they had found enemies who became teachers, showing them what they could become when they worked together. The galaxy was still a dangerous place, but it was no longer ruled by fear. Species that had been prey for centuries were now learning to stand up for themselves and each other. And somewhere in the outer rim, exploration ships from the Alliance were making first contact with new species, offering friendship instead of conquest. The humans had kept their promise. They had shown the galaxy that there was a different way to be strong, not through fear and domination, but through cooperation and protection. The age of galactic predators was over. The age of galactic protectors had begun. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, now working on designs for ships that could carry mixed crews from different species, smiled as she watched the news broadcasts. Humanity had gone to the stars looking for their place in the galaxy. They had found it by helping everyone else find theirs.